I have a question, Madam Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
I forget to unmute. It's pretty funny. But muting is our friend. A couple things. One is I definitely think we need a meeting in June. I just do. I think this is important. We've been discussing it for a while now, and now I really appreciate the presentation this morning by GRS. Gives us more clarity. I appreciate the letter from John and the State Employees Association giving us clear ideas that they want. But I think we definitely need a meeting in June. That would be my first thought. And has anyone at APERS done a comparison of, well, I got to get that thought more clear in my mind, I guess. A couple things I want to mention, though. When we say employer contribution, everyone's clear that that means the general fund of the state of Arkansas, the very fund that pays the salaries for everyone. I just want to mention that it's not this ethereal employer out there. It's the actual budget that we live with every year is where the employer contribution comes from. Anyway, I wanted to say that, and that I had a comment made to me, and I thought, wow, I wonder if some of these people realize that all of us are eating from the same cookie. Every board member is a member of APERS retirement. So as we're making these decisions, they affect us personally as well. So I just wanted to point that out anyway, I just wanted to point that out. But I want to strongly suggest a meeting in June to further discuss this.
Madam Chairman, this is Larry Walther.
Yes.
I'd like to also echo what was just said, and that is I think we need to have a meeting in June. We've received a lot of information here, and I think it's going to take me a little time to digest it and think about it and put it kind of in a format that I think I can understand it a little better. And so that will take some time. So I would also echo the June meeting. Also, with regard to the employers, we have the cities and counties and municipalities who participate in here, and they're, as I understand it, many of them, if not all of them, have a different fiscal year than the state does, and making changes can be very difficult for them, as we've talked about over the last few years. And so changing the employer contribution affects not only the state but also the cities and counties.
Yes, thank you for that observation, and I certainly appreciate the commentary. We have gotten a lot of information today. Yes, Gary?
Is it correct that each of these reductions in the unfunded liability that we've seen from the different ideas, that there would be a larger cumulative impact when several ideas were combined? Is that correct?
I think some of the proposals would be additive.
Right.
I think in many circumstances, the cumulative effect is less. The reason the cumulative effect is less is, for example, think about the COLA change. The COLA change is being evaluated on benefits based upon a 3-year FAC period. If you reduce the benefits to a 5-year FAC period, you've reduced the benefits. Hence, you've reduced the reduction in the COLA then, because the COLA then is on a smaller benefit. So I think in most circumstances, it goes the other way. The combined effect will be less than if you add them together.
Okay. So what I think would be good for a June meeting would be if today we could narrow this down to maybe two baskets or two groups of additive changes. So, and then ask our consultant to come back to us in June and say, okay, if you do these three things, here is the cumulative effect of these three things. Or if you do these four things, here is the cumulative effect of these four things. But if we could give them advice and narrow this down, that would help us be able to make a better decision in June. If we show up in June and massage these 12 things, we still don't know the cumulative effect of all of them together. That's my point of view. So with that, and I'll be quiet and let someone else talk now, but I think we could, in my mind, I could come back here in a little while, or someone else, and suggest a grouping or two of these that we could look at more closely in June all together. Thank you.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, Judge.
first of all, let me say to Mita and his staff that they did a very good job of helping us with a complex topic. One of the, and that I want everybody to recognize that the board members got this detail about 1:30 or 2 o'clock yesterday. And that includes anybody else that's out there that's monitoring these reports and the activities and the decision-making process of this board, including the State Employees Association, the Arkansas Association of Counties, and the Municipal League. And of course, the counties and the cities have calendar year budgets. We don't have the state's fiscal year budget. So the need to have a follow-up meeting that's more focused and this has been more focused than the last meeting, which is certainly, where we need to go. Certainly we need to meet in June. And if it's another Zoom meeting, this is working fine, I believe. The discussion about cumulative effect of multiple measures certainly makes sense. I think we need to see, whenever we make a policy recommendation, what the effect is on the different components that we're going to make our goals. And I would hope we would come up with what our goals are. And the employer contribution rate should not be going down unless we, turn things around dramatically. So that should be something I would hope we would agree to, that rate is going to stay, and on the A or B, whenever you look at those scenarios, that would not be one we would be trying to adjust. That we would be trying to adjust the amortization period downward. And if we could get the amortization period adjusted downward to where the unfunded actuarial liability does not increase anymore, there's another goal potentially. And then the groupings of the type of changes could probably be agreed upon as far as a sequencing. I think the state letter represents a similar perspective than what you may see from the county association and the city association, with the most sensitive area being what we would do with the cost of living. And on that point, in the past, we have had, just to assume somebody might not understand how it works, which is probably not a bad assumption to make, how a 3% compound, if you take, say, $10,000 and run a 3% compound out for 10 years to show the amounts, and a 3% simple out for 10 years and to show the amounts and show the comparison. We've done that in past board meetings. It's been several years, just for clarity's sake. And so I'm still advocating that we we formulate where we're heading against goals and objectives, and that the way that we present those is based on the facts that we're trying to address with whatever that policy is, similar to how you would craft a resolution, either for the legislature to pass or for any other legislative body, because we're going to be communicating not only with the representatives that we serve. I've got county government as an example, and the municipal representatives got municipal, but we're going to be communicating with our legislators as well as the retirees. So, and then that's the other point, that we're in a partnership as a board with the legislature on whatever we're going to do, and that's why I've liked and continue to advocate the some type of educational format whenever that's appropriate, without COVID-19 restrictions, since we are in partnership and they want to do the right thing just like we do as our partners. And that's my comments.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead, Jason.
may I ask a question of GRS and then also of Duncan again? My first question to GRS, I think I heard during the comments that we really didn't address non-contributory in this presentation. Please educate me. I thought the law was changed back in 03, 04, where everyone did go contributory. So are these legacies, or what is my misunderstanding of that? Someone please educate me.
And Duncan, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was roughly around 2005 that the new contributory group was established. At that time, non-contributory members were allowed to convert to the contributory group, but they weren't required to do so.
Okay.
So there's roughly about 9,000, just under 9,000 individuals that are still participating in the non-contributory plan.
Okay. I guess then the question for the board is what could, if anything, could not do or should consider about them? And then, if I may change, Madam Chair, to Duncan, going back to the State Employee Association's letter, I very clearly lined out that they're willing for us to make wholesale changes with new hires. One of the gray areas that I've sort of highlighted is, what about those individuals that are hired but non-vested? I think there's a gray area that might need clarification. I don't know if it's proper for the board to ask you to be in touch with Mr. Bridges and maybe get some clarification on that. I don't know if that's so much a comment or a question to you, Duncan. Sorry.
Certainly, and I could visit with him after the meeting. I mean, in the second paragraph, they did mention, benefits that are applicable to employees who are vested in their retirement. So that there may be a difference there for them between vested and non-vested. I could certainly visit with them about that as well.
Some clarity before June might be helpful. Just my thought.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, Darrell, go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chairman, I like Secretary Walter, need to get a little more information. If we're talking about, and I think the inference here is that we're discussing possible changes in employer contributions, and I need to get a little more information on what impact this might have with regard to cities, counties, and municipalities. I'd like to have a little more time to just do a little research and see what impact that might have before I would be prepared to make a decision there in that regard. But then again, I would also like for the board to have a little more time to look at the State Employees Association's letter and what they are positioning here with regard to a change, and then with regard to the COLA change. I think I just need a little more time, Madam Chairman, to kind of digest everything that we're doing. So I think a June meeting would be wholly appropriate.
Madam Chairman, this is Larry Walther. May I ask a question?
Yes, please, go ahead.
This is of Duncan. First of all, I don't see a sense of urgency today, and I think we do need that time, as I expressed earlier. But my question to Duncan is, at what point do we have to make a decision on what we specifically want to do? Because as I understand it, we're going to have additional town halls. It may be done virtually, but there are going to be additional town halls, which may also bring in additional information. So, Duncan, when do we get to kind of the point that we have to make a decision on what we want to do?
You know, like I said, the town halls, they were looking at August or September for that. So I think, you know, we would definitely want to do something prior to our August regular meeting, which means, you know, it would have to be a special meeting between now and then. But, you know, I do think, you know, the sooner we do something, the longer individuals have to look at it and digest it before the town halls. But I do think, you know, given that the town halls aren't until August at the earliest, that probably gives us June and July to continue the work. So, you know, and if you just think back to, I think we had the special meeting April 30th. It's been less than a month since that meeting. I think we've made good progress just in the last 3 weeks. So whether it's one more meeting in June, or if it, you know, if we want to continue down this path in June and July, I think we've got the flexibility to do that based on what I've been told.
Thank you, Duncan. I guess the next thing would be, as the board members do go through the information and they have questions, would it be appropriate to go through APERS staff, you and APERS staff, to seek that information, or do you have a suggestion on that?
Just kind of in the interim period, you're saying? You know, if y'all have any questions, you know, you could certainly send that to me, and then I could communicate with GRS on that, coordinate with them. Okay.
You know, I've got Paul and John here, but some of the others don't have the access to the people I do. So hopefully that y'all will be able to help us get through, get the information we need to make these decisions.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead, Andrea.
Are there, to the judge's point, well, the county judge's point, not the Judge Douthat's point, are there any legislators on this call? Can you tell? I mean, I'm assuming legislators are coming into our meetings, especially since they're readily available and keeping up with what we're doing. Can you tell?
Yeah, I'm looking at the list right now. I'm not sure I see a legislator on at this moment. Okay. I think in advance of the meeting, I believe we had some legislators registered for the meeting, so they may have dropped in and out.
Okay.
I know at the last meeting, I know we had at least one legislator on there, maybe more.
Okay. I would just think that, you know, it's a public meeting. They would want to come and hear what we're talking about and see this presentation. Maybe we can send this presentation, email this presentation at least to the chairman of the, or all the retirement committee meeting members.
Absolutely. Yep.
And also to the judge's point is, I view our goal as the same as it's been the 5 years I've been on this board, and that is to be a fiduciary, taking in information about our investments and figuring out the best way to have a solid membership program moving forward. And I've just never seen that change, that basic goal change. And as information comes in, I think we change a little bit as to, wow, we need to, like right now, we need to make more of an adjustment right now than we ever had in 5 years. It's a completely different time we're in. I'm going to guess that the next quarter report is not going to even be as good this quarter's report. And so we're always having to change how we're going to adjust. So, but the focus is we're fiduciaries and we want a strong program 10, 20, 30 years from now. Anyway, that's all. Thank you.
Madam Chair, could I be recognized?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to state that I couldn't agree more with Mr. Carnahan that I would like to see a grouping of some cumulative actions and some real numbers. And so, Mita, I was going to ask if for our next meeting, if you could prepare an cumulative reduction estimate if we double the vesting period to 10 years flat, not a quasi, but just 10 years flat, double the FAS to 6 years, and also raise the employee contribution rate to 6.5 phased in over 2 years. If you could prepare me something for our next meeting that would give us an overall cumulative effect in the reduction of the unfunded liability with those three actions, I would really appreciate it.
We'd be happy to produce any combined effect proposals that any of the board members wishes to see. The thing that I'll ask for, to the best of your ability, is try and be as precise as possible, meaning which groups do you do or do you not want affected, so that we're not misconstrued coming into the next meeting. One of the reasons being we do have time, but we'll be running out of time if we don't have what the board is looking for in our next presentation. And yeah, basically that's the biggest one. And I think this came up earlier. If the board can reduce it to 4 to 8 packages or something like that, where it's really now starting to get more. It was a really broad discussion in February. It got narrowed in April. It's got somewhat more narrowed in May. It just needs to keep getting refined going forward, because then there are just too many variables. So to the extent that the board can have some discussions, and it might not have to be during the meeting today, where there's some particular packages that you would like us to look at, that would be helpful. Our apologies, Mr. Hudson, with respect to getting the material yesterday, but we were pretty honest about that. I mean, it's less than 21 days since our last meeting. There are a lot of numbers in our presentation. That's what we get paid to do, but there's a lot of work that goes involved in it. We're happy to do it, but we also appreciate that you all need the time to digest the information that we're providing you. So the more early we can get you our presentations, I think the better for everybody involved. So that's just what I'll.
Okay, and I appreciate your comments, and I don't want to make your job any more difficult. Do you mind going through those 3 specific items with me now? Tell me where you want me to narrow it down. I mean, on the 6.5% phase in over 2 years, that obviously would just affect contributory members, correct?
Yep, that's just contributory members. So all contributory members, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay.
And the second one, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, the 10-year vesting, that's pretty much just everybody, unless you're already vested. I'm assuming we're not going to take vesting away from them. So
correct.
that one's
okay.
The 6-year FAC, that's one I would like clarification on. So would an individual who is covered under the 3-year FAC provision, would their FAC go down tomorrow if this new provision came into play?
I wouldn't want to retroactively penalize anyone.
Okay. So similar how we did, I think, the 5-year FAC.
Yeah. And again, if there's any other clarifications, if you could ask me now, and then I could have that information at our next meeting, it would be very helpful.
That's one of the packages we can put together.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Jason, go ahead.
I do apologize. If I can make maybe a statement and then ask Duncan for one more thing. So, thinking on the COLA, I can promise you that right now the state treasury would love to find a one-year investment that was risk-free, that provided 3%. And I would appreciate in your conversations with Mr. Bridges at the State Employees Association, I mean, we very clearly heard that we are negative 3-something% in our ROI, far short of our 7.15 target range. And so as you visit with him, I would love for you to have a conversation about his perspective on that COLA in times when we hit economic downturns. Now, please let me state, I understand sitting on this board for the treasurer and on other boards that we are asked not just to look at today or tomorrow, even next year, but 10 and 20 years down the road. But we do know that the current market conditions will have impact on our returns for the next 4 or 5 years as we smooth this out. So I think if, with the indulgence of the board and the chair, I would just add that to your plate when you talk to State Employees Association. I get their letter, I get their position, I get if I was a retiree and I was counting on that, but you know, go look at the rate of inflation right now. I don't think it's pegged 2% in quite a while. So I just throw that out for food for thought, and I would look for comment from you or anyone else on the board or even GRS on that matter, and I'll shut up. Thank you.
So just to make sure I understand, you were asking about some flexibility with the COLA when investment returns aren't meeting expectations, or
at least 3%
like
to cover their 3% COLA. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's a fair conversation for you to have with them offline.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'd make a comment if you'd recognize me.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Judge Hudson.
I think that we have several associations that would probably give us comments and input. I know that the Arkansas Association of Counties will give us comments. I've had some conversation with them, and I was not criticizing META and GRS. I know you had a lot of work to do. My point was we got the information yesterday afternoon, and so how quick we're going to try to make definitive decisions and plans based on that time frame. I'm just making that acknowledgement. The other thing is each board member has ideas. We all have ideas of packages we'd like to put together or actions we'd like for the consultants to take to work on. Somehow we need some coordination on that. I'm thinking that's through our executive director to get some kind of consensus, so we're not studying endless options. And I understand how much work there is involved in that. So some way of getting some type of consensus on the follow-up, since we have a lot of opinions here that I think we're starting to go towards more consensus. Is there not some way that the board members can be coordinated in some fashion by Duncan on activity and follow-up by GRS, since what they are being asked to do is a lot of work, and in so doing, maybe Duncan can develop goals and objectives, or maybe a sequencing of legislative or changes that would be acceptable to the board based on his perception of what's going on, the town halls, etc. And I think that would be helpful to me. The other thing is I'm sure that each of the association representatives would be happy to come and give us a 5-minute report on what just like the state letter set out. I'm sure that Crystal Lyons would welcome the opportunity to represent the county government. I think the municipal league would do that just like the state, if that's of interest, but some type of coordinated way, since we do have, there's a lot of attention out there of all these retirees of what we're talking about right now, and we want to give everybody the chance to comment.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, Daryl.
I think the judge is right, but what I also know and really feel in my heart, Executive Director Duncan has done just a tremendous job of keeping us informed of what's going on. Short of us having clandestine meetings among board members, I don't know how we can do any better than what we're doing right now. I think he's doing a good job. Now, as far as getting the information to us in a timely fashion, that may be something we could talk about. But I think we're okay. I mean, I largely my biggest concern here, and I said it before, we've got some things on the table right now that I have not had an opportunity to digest. I mean, how's this going to affect our cities, our municipalities, our counties? I don't know this. And I have constituencies out here that I need to talk with. So I don't know what these numbers are going to mean to them. But I think, a real big applause should go out to Mr. Duncan and his staff, keeping us abreast of where we are. Now, as far as the June meeting or July meeting, I understand we've got a tight time frame here. I'm available on June or July, but I just need another at least 30 to 45 days, Madam Chairman, to kind of get my mind around.
Looks like we might have lost him. Wait there.
Yeah, I think that sounds like we did.
Duncan,
He's there.
Okay.
Did I go?
Go ahead, Daryl.
You're back.
Did you hear me?
No.
Did you hear everything I said?
Not the last part.
Okay, I guess you heard everything. Did you hear everything that I said, or did I just get clipped?
We heard 30 to 45 days.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, just leave it at that.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry, Madam Chairman. I got clipped out.
Hey, we're all working with it, I know.
Okay.
Well, actually, so I guess what I'm hearing is that ideally we would look to have another meeting in June to go over everything and have additional information provided to us as was proposed today. And I think that I agree. I think that we do need additional time to consider these issues before us, particularly with the numbers that we've just received. And I think it's also possible that we may need to have another meeting in July. Just, these are very serious considerations that we have before us. And I'm like all the rest of you, I'm a member of this retirement system too. So all these issues are very important to me as well. So these are big judgments for us all to have to make. So I think that if we consider doing another meeting and maybe even a follow-up to finalize our proposals in July, I think that would be very appropriate for all of us in making these considerations. I do want to ask, what is the board's consideration? I really wouldn't. As far as myself is concerned, I would like to hear comments from some of the associations, maybe a 5 or 10 minute comment from each of the associations that represents various portions of our retirement system, if they would like to come to our June meeting and comment on any of these possibilities. I certainly think that they deserve to be heard from, and I certainly would like to hear from them. And that's my personal consideration, but I would like to throw that out for comment to the board if any other board member would like to comment on that.
I think that's a good idea, Madam Chairman.
I'm surprised that none of them have written us a letter to this point. I mean, kudos to Mr. Bridges for doing it. I mean, we're not meeting privately, so I'm very surprised more people. I mean, I know they showed up at some of the town halls. I saw them there, but yeah, I'm very surprised they haven't written it. And my guess is they may not until after we come up with or our ideas and share our ideas. Then I'm sure we'll hear feedback. But yeah, I have no problem hearing from them, and surprised that none of them have gone ahead and done that already. And I agree with you, Madam Chairman. I totally think I can see us having a meeting in July as well. I mean, these are big things to chew on, and I would support you in that.
I would agree. I would agree with them, Madam Chairman. This is Darrell Bassett. I would agree with them as well. I think we should hear from them.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman,
do I have a motion from anybody on the board? Anyone on the board that would suggest that perhaps, Duncan, we could extend an invitation to those associations or of memberships that would like to appear before the board and make a comment?
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Bassett and a second from Mr. Brady. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, and the motion carries. And Duncan, if you could reach out to those associations, I know you're familiar with who all represents the associations, and if we could place them on an agenda when we decide to make a determination of the time for our board meeting in June.
Absolutely. I'll be happy to do that. And I do want to say, they've been engaged in the town halls. I've, visited with various people at various times. So I want to make sure everyone knows they've been engaged. And my expectation is they'll be happy to have a chance to come and engage in this way as well.
Madam Chairman, could I make another comment, please?
Yes, please. Please, Larry.
One thing I just wanted to remind all of the board members is that we have this fiduciary responsibility to make presentations, to offer paths to improve APERS, and I think that's been our objective for a long time. It has been for me since I've been on this board. Having said that, we may come up with some suggestions or some proposals that will be non-controversial. I think there's some that everybody can agree with. There may be some others that are not going to be as universally agreed to. Having said that, the board presents this, but the legislators have to write the legislation and carry the legislation. So that's kind of toward the final hurdle of getting these things done. So I wouldn't say we shouldn't. I would say we should go forward and put everything on the table, put as much on the table as we feel is important at this point in time, realizing that not all of it is going to end up in legislation in 2021.
Thank you, Larry.
Can't agree with you more, Secretary Walter.
So what I hear is that we're proposing to have another meeting in June to address these issues once again that are for us, and to also hear from our associations, commentary from our associations, and I'm hopeful that what they will do is take this information that was provided in our board packet today and maybe come comment to us about how their association feels as far as these proposals that we have before us or these suggestions that we have before us, so that we get feedback in that regard. And so what I'd like to do is go ahead, Duncan, if you could see and set up a time for us to have our meeting in June, and hopefully as many of us can attend as possible and get that information out to us as early as we can, recognizing that it is a lot of information. So, and this will also give us time to go over the information that we've been provided for this meeting. I think we all need a little more time with that as well. So if I don't hear any objection, what I'll ask Duncan to do is go ahead and set up a time frame for us in June.
Absolutely, and I'll send out a message if y'all can just let me know what your availability looks like, then I can coordinate that, try to maximize the number of people who are available, and I'll also check with the groups, make sure they're available as well.
Madam Chairman,
Yes,
is it
go ahead.
my understanding that we're supposed to send our ideas for packaging to Duncan, and he's going to sift through them and come up with package ideas to pass on to GRS? Was that the last, is that kind of what we decided?
Yeah, I think that would be acceptable, Duncan, right? If you could do it pretty quickly too, or in the next few days, if you kind of consider that and forward that, so GRS will have as much time as possible before we schedule the next meeting.
Absolutely, yeah. If you'll just shoot that to me, anyone who has anything that they want us to look at, we'll coordinate with GRS on that.
And with that, is there any other comment from the board?
Madam Chairman, one other comment.
Yes.
If a question is submitted to Duncan for an answer, if that question and the answer could be provided to all the board members as that develops for our next meeting.
Yeah, I think that's a great comment. Thank you. Does anybody have any other business that they want to be brought before the board today? If not, then we will plan on having a called meeting in June, possibly another meeting in July. Our next quarterly meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, August the 19th, but I do believe I will see you at least once or maybe twice before then. So thank you all very much. I think we had a very, very excellent meeting today, and I hope that our audience feels so as well, and I hope that we get good participation at our next board meeting. Thank you all, and the meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. How do we get out of here?